Hello and welcome to our WIFR FastCast. Temperatures will feel like sub-zero for our Monday and Tuesday morning. Let's toss it over to WIFR's Maggie Pulsing on how cold we could get.
There's a First Alert Action Day for us on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, as we do have some incredibly cool conditions out there. Now, at the noon hour, we did have a cold weather advisory expire, but that doesn't mean our temperatures are going to be drastically warming up from here. Today, we're only having highs that top out into the single digits. We're back down to well below as we get into the afternoon and evening with the wind chills. Looking ahead to the next 5 days, Tuesday into Wednesday, we'll be having a slight warm up, topping out at about 25 degrees. But it's not going to last long, as we're immediately right back down to teens before we have very cool conditions Friday going into Saturday, where we have once again single-digit highs there. Over the next 7 days, we do want to first alert you to some snow that likely will be coming in the evening hours for our Tuesday. That'll carry over into the early hours of Wednesday. And with that, we also will still be dealing with the wind like we are today. It is a bit chilly out there, sitting at about 20 below depending on where you're at. But some good news as we get to Wednesday, Thursday, even looking ahead, we'll have a couple of days of some relief before that pretty big drop Friday into our Saturday, back down to sub-zero overnight lows, single-digit highs. Next best chance we could see some snow there as well on that Saturday and Sunday with an 11-degree high, and then right back down to sub-zero overnight lows. Monday, we will be back into the teens, and that's kind of where we'll stay over the next 10 days or so. Here's a first.
Thank you, Maggie. And several state-line buildings will be open this week to provide heat from the sub-zero temperatures. In Winnebago County, Carpenter's Place, Rockford Rescue Mission, and Brook Road United Methodist Church will be open. The Loves Park City Hall Gymnasium in Loves Park, Ida Public Library in Belvedere, and the Belvedere Oasis will also be open. We have a full list of warming centers on our website, WIFR.com. No charges will be filed in the death of a Winnebago County inmate. According to the Winnebago County State's Attorney's Office, in June 2025, Ruben Yanez was in jail for vehicle theft charges. He was treated at a hospital for a brain bleed, but claims it was from a failed suicide attempt. Yanez is accused of punching a light and made suicidal statements. Corrections officers would later find Yanez unresponsive in his jail cell. He was taken to a hospital where he later died. An autopsy would show Yanez died of rebleeding in his brain. The state's attorney's office says corrections officers tried saving Yanez's life. No charges will be filed. The NAACP Rockford chapter mourns the loss of its president, George Scott Jr., who died this past weekend. He saw more than 18 committees dedicated to fighting injustice before his passing. Scott was working to form a credit union to empower Rockford residents financially. He was also trying to address access to healthy foods in the area by organizing a mobile grocery truck and pushing for community gardens. Details about his funeral will be announced this week. New video shows a Rochelle house and barn destroyed in a fire that killed a person Sunday. Fire crews were sent after 2 in the morning to the 8,000 block of South Thorpe Road. When crews arrived, they found the home covered in flames with a man inside. A dozen fire departments came to put out the blaze. Rockford investigators look into a house fire Saturday evening that left $25,000 in damages. Firefighters found smoke coming from the home in the 900 block of Westchester. Crews were able to put out the blaze in 20 minutes. A 77-year-old Dixon man is safe after he was reported missing over the weekend. Michael McLaughlin was last seen Saturday in the 400 block of South Dixon Avenue. After hours passed, Dixon police took to social media to ask for help. Later that day, police got a call that a person was yelling for help in the area of Countryside Lane. Police would later find McLaughlin in a wooded area. Monday marks Martin Luther King Day, and for many, it's a day of service in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was assassinated on April 4, 1968, for his work to end racism and bring equality to all Americans. WIFR's Washington News Bureau managing editor Priscilla Huff has more on Dr. King's legacy.
Nobel Peace Prize winner, civil rights icon, beacon of hope. all phrases used to describe the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King led America in a fight for equality and justice with a commitment to nonviolence. He fought for voting rights and desegregation. He led mass demonstrations such as the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. In 1963, roughly 250,000 people marched on Washington and listened to his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. But it was the 1965 march from Selma to Montgomery that truly grabbed the nation's attention. It was actually a series of marches. The first was stopped with police dogs, fire hoses, and tear gas. Americans watched the televised brutality in horror. When tens of thousands of people marched to Montgomery, Alabama 2 weeks later, Washington was forced to act, and President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act in August 1965. Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. Today, his legacy lives on through a National Day of Service.
Germs are everywhere these days, and oftentimes it's our kids that spread them. One Rockford mom springs into action with a new product meant to limit the spread of germs. Annette Carmichael invented the Pure Sip. It's a multi-spout cup created to solve a common parenting headache. Kids who just want one sip of their parents' drink. Perfect timing for the current cold and flu season. I spoke with Annette on her product and how it can make life cleaner and easier for parents. As part of our We the People series happening all year long, Connecticut's contribution to childhood memories runs deep through some of the most beloved toys in history. Kara Sunland has the latest.
Do you remember the Cabbage Patch Kid craze that had normally sane parents waiting outside of toy stores for a chance to bring one of these cloth-faced dolls home?
How long have you been waiting? Since midnight.
Well, the company that made the Cabbage Patch Kids is from West Hartford.
As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, no way better to learn history than through toys. And Andrea, I had no idea the Cabbage Patch Kids and the craze centers here in Connecticut.
It did. And so the Cabbage Patch Kids were made by a company called Coleco. The company got its start here in the 1930s. It was called the Connecticut Leather Company.
Coleco used to make parts for shoes, but after World War II, they needed to diversify. So they started making toys like this Mouseketeer handbag.
So after this period is when they bought the rights to make the Cabbage Patch Kids. They had been sold as a doll called Little People, and then after the Coleco got it and it became the Cabbage Patch Kid, they were able to mass produce them and sell them. And as you know, there was the huge Cabbage Patch Kid craze in 1983.
I still have mine, and they have an original at the museum here as well. And another famous toy, the Erector set, was invented here in Connecticut by a man from New Haven.
That's right. Okay. So A.C. Gilbert was a man who was in Connecticut. He always said that he was a kid at heart himself, and so he was interested in making toys. The story he wrote in his biography was that he was taking a train and he saw them changing over from steam to electricity and saw things going up and down. He's like, wouldn't it be fun for boys to be able to play with toys like this?
It was 1913. He went home and started making prototypes with his wife. The rest, as they say, is history.
And they just flew off the shelves.
So this is quite old. Am I allowed to lift the box?
You can lift this one. Okay. And this one is a little bit later. So this one would have come in like the 1950s and 60s when plastic started getting incorporated into toys more.
We can learn a lot of history through toys, right?
That's
America's history. For instance, we were into steam trains or manufacturing, and that our toys reflect sort of what we were going through.
That's right. And A.C. Gilbert in particularly was talking about that his toys could help young boys develop skills for when they become men. So in addition to erector sets, there were also chemistry sets, magic kits, model toy sets.
A.C. Gilbert also made James Bond toys.
Here at the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History, you can see more of the toys that Gilbert made. And you also learned something pretty cool, that in 1918, he became the man who saved Christmas by testifying against a toy production ban, saying that toys are essential for building character.
Another famous toy invented in Connecticut, Silly Putty, created by accident by James Wright, who worked for General Electric.
It was actually invented in Connecticut in 1943. During World War II, there were some chemists at the General Electric Company in New Haven who was trying to find a substitute for rubber and was unable to make it.
They came up with this goo and started giving it to people at parties. And then he met up with a toy marketer who loved it. And
so that toy marketer actually hired some Yale students to put little bits of the silly putty into the eggs, and he sold them.
Oh my gosh.
In 1950, there was an article in the New Yorker, and their popularity grew exponentially after that.
Next up, for some fun history, the Lego.
Legos were made in Connecticut from into the 1950s up until around 2006. They were made in Enfield, Connecticut, millions and millions of bricks.
And you know Pope Park in Hartford? It's named after the inventor of the two-wheeled bicycle.
Albert Pope, who was here in Hartford, manufactured thousands and thousands of these bicycles, especially of the safety bicycles that are popular today with the two wheels that were a little bit easier to ride than the one with the really big wheel.
As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, just think of all the birthdays kids have celebrated with toys from our great state with a pretty fun history. Kara Sundlin, Channel 3, Eyewitness News.
Those stories and more will be coming up in our shows this afternoon and evening at 4, 5, 6, and 10. Make sure to download our WYFR app on your TV at home. We're available on Amazon TV, Roku TV, and Apple TV. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you later.